while ago. I forget when I pitched it to you guys, but it was several years ago. And a lot of these personal projects take me way longer than I want them to. So, I probably shot this over the course of 2 years. And I just reach out to people as I'm traveling in different cities. But most of these guys, with the exception of 2, I think, or 3, are Florida based.
So how did you come up with this Offseason Santa's idea?
So just on Facebook, seeing my friends posting pictures of the little ones with Santa Claus at over the holidays, you see these faces, and some of these guys have just such beautiful beards and faces, and some not so much.
You're talking about like mall Santas that your friends had photographed with kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just looking through, and I'm like, who are these guys? And just wrote down that idea to do a project on what these guys do outside of December.
And then what happened from there? How did you find these guys?
So I Googled it, and there is a Brotherhood of Real Bearded Santas, and the Florida chapter, they call themselves the Sandy Clauses.
Wait, real bearded Santas?
Real Bearded Santas.
Uh-huh.
And so they have a website in Florida with all the Sandy Clauses and in their chapter. And so I started reaching out to people from there. And then when I started photographing each one, I would ask them, do you know any other people? Or, some of my friends started to refer other people, like Santa Joe, the one in the pool. He was the New York City Bloomingdale Santa.
And I'm sure, and that, as you started showing them this work, it was very easy to get more and more people to join on and want to be photographed. But in the onset of it, how did you pitch this idea to the dudes?
To the guys, I just said, I'm a portrait photographer based in Miami, and I'm working on a project called Offseason Santas, and it's all about what you guys do outside of December. And would send them a link to my work. Here's some of the work that I've done, and this is what I'm hoping to do. I always kind of say there's the possibility of this being published somewhere, and are you open to that? And
that being said, did you do like talent releases or talent fees with these guys?
I did. I had them sign releases. I did not give them any fees, any modeling fees or anything. I think if the work was picked up for something commercial and I made a lot of money from it, I would give them a modeling fee. But I think, I just printed really gorgeous prints for each one of them and sent them off. And then as they started getting published places, I would send them the links to wherever they were published, and just kind of kept them updated with what was happening with it.
That's awesome. And I'm sure they were all in love with them all, right?
And they were excited.
Yeah.
I think it's just fun to kind of see your face out there and be able to share it with your friends. And
I was thinking about as I was looking through this work, I was thinking about the locations. Did you have certain locations in mind for each person, or is their space important for this project?
I think I love photographing people in their spaces, like in their homes. I think it's intimate, and it tells their own story in a way. So, I tried, I think with a lot of the personal work that I do, one of the first things I do is sit someone down and do a video interview. And that's mostly for me to write the captions, and I'm able to just kind of be with that person and talk to them without having to stop and take notes.
Yeah.
So I kind of refrain from asking them detailed questions before. I just kind of ask them basics. Okay, let's figure out a timing. And I'd love to photograph you either in your workspace or your home environment, or somewhere that makes sense for whatever you're up to in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these guys would send me, I'd have them send me a picture of their home or do like a little video just so I can kind of get an idea of what I want to do beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it, you know, sitting and talking to them beforehand and getting an idea of who this person is and what they do. And then you decide, you know, how am I going to represent this person in a still image?
Yeah. So tell me, it's interesting where I know it's hard sometimes to photograph quote unquote real people. And these guys are, actors generally used to being, talkative and loud and getting their photos made. But this is outside of that costume a little bit for them. Was it difficult to get these guys, uh, acting well in front of your lens?
All of them were great. And I feel like, you know, I love guiding people and working with real talent. I think I prefer that to working with, you know, models or actors. I think the process of it is fun, and just getting someone or teaching someone how to be natural and be themselves in front of the camera is a process I enjoy.
Yeah.
So I didn't find it challenging with them. They were great.
Technically speaking, what's your setup with this? Are you doing this alone? Do you have a small crew?
Just by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with most of these, there's one image I use 3 lights for, and then everything else is just 2 strobes.
Yeah.
A strip light with a grid, and then I had like a 7-inch grid, really tight grid, just for their faces, and that's pretty much for the environmental shots. And then for the those ones, a lot of them I put a reflector underneath,
Mm-hmm.
but just hung up a black felt behind them. And gear gets in the way a lot of times, and I try to keep it as simple as possible, you know.
Expand on that more. How does gear get in the way?
I love it, and I tend to rent too much stuff for shoots. And I think just with this time that we're going through right now, I'm doing some work with some of the seniors, graduating seniors, and I have one camera with me, and I had a friend who has a gear company. He sent me 2 lenses because I only had a 50 millimeter. He sent me 2 lenses. And then another guy in Dallas who I went to the Eddie Adams workshop with is letting me use like 3 of his on camera little flash strobes with triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is great. Like, why am I traveling with all this stuff? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of fun to work that way and solve lighting issues with just simple light gear, you know, with whatever you have.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna jump into another recent project of yours now called Hormones.
Called what? Oh, hormones.
And this one definitely have more questions about.
mm-hmm.
So how did this project get going? When did you start thinking about this?
So this was I think it was like early 2017, maybe even before. I just always write project ideas that I want to do, and most of it is subjects I'm curious about or things that I've thought about that I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I just write these ideas down in a little notebook, and this was when I kept coming back to. And for me, it felt like a departure from the work that I had done, because a lot of my personal projects have been really kind of light and humorous in a way, and this one was a little a little harder to grasp in my head. Like, how am I going to do this in a way that feels good for me, to these women, and then for anyone who's reading a story or seeing the images. So kept going back to that, and then decided to go to a porn expo. Well, I tried to reach out to a few women via email, and that just doesn't work. You know, I think these women get bombarded with so much BS all the time that, you know, a stranger calls them up and it's just kind of hard to digest. Or that's the sense that I got from talking with them. And so I was like, I need to talk to these women in person and just, you know, bring my book, and so they have a sense of who I am and what I do, and just talk to them one-on-one. And so I went to a porn expo and met Emily. This is the first woman that I met, and just kind of told her the idea for the project. Emily?
Yeah, is this Emily here?
This is Emily. Mm-hmm. So she's got a little one, and she's pregnant with her son in this picture. And they had just had a baby shower. That's why her room is like that. So yeah, spoke with her, and I think she was kind of put off guard because I asked her, I was like, are there any women here who, you know, have children? And she thought I knew that she had children, and I didn't. So she kind of opened up to me about that. And it was just a really easy conversation. And that was the first one. I was so nervous walking into this place because, one, it's just, I would never go to a porn expo, you know, but there I was. And that first conversation just kind of, I was like, okay, she gets it. And that's so important. And then I think I met 5 women at that first conference that I went to.
Well, that face-to-face and, you know, talking to a potential subject about shooting them, that face-to-face can, you know, be a lot better than an email, cold outreach, huh?
Right. It makes such a difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mary Beth, can I jump in for a quick question?
Yes.
So when you are working on the photos and you say you do a video interview, how much are you thinking about interviewing them to get sort of text for a story to help pitch that?
It's mostly all for that. I mean, you know, I think their story is so much more important than the image itself. And so I kind of go in and I have a list of questions that I want to ask them, and then the conversation kind of takes on a life of its own, and I just kind of let it flow and ask them follow-up questions based on whatever we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And everyone, like, they were so open with me. And I remember Michaela, the first one I went to photograph in Las Vegas, I just left feeling like, okay, this is an important story, and I'm so excited to you know, share more of these women's stories.
So when you went to go photograph them, was there any concern about their children's faces being an image? I mean, I can see this one in Michaela is really only one where we see a bulk of the kid's face, correct?
Yes, a profile. And my intention was I didn't want to show any of the children's faces. I didn't think it was an important part of the story. It's more about motherhood and just kind of having that represented in the image. Mm-hmm. And all the women were okay with their child being shown, with the exception of the newborn. The dad was just not cool with it. So that's why we kept him in the crib. But at one point during the shoot, she was holding him, you know, with his head on her shoulder. And I was just like, oh, you know.
So when you found their places here too, I mean, these rooms look very set decorated.
They do.
Did you? I mean, this one specifically, I think it's great. It's beautiful. Did I imagine you had a big hand in that?
Yes and no. I mean, it was kind of like that. Like, I do little things. So that basketball was actually on the corner of the couch. And I did work with a retoucher on these. And he was great. And, you know, I told him, I was like, it's important to me that we don't show the child's entire face. So I was like, would it be possible to take that basketball and put it as if he's holding it? Because he was holding another little ball. So that is retouched in.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome.
And then this one, she had a baby shower and the room was literally like that. So I was like, let's just go through photos or through clothes.
Yeah, I think that was a great suggestion, you know, for the activity in here to show that. And I like seeing the ultrasound pictures on the bed as well.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And now, was it the same with these women and children as the Santas as far as releases and fees?
Yes. Yes. I sent them prints.
Mhm.
And you know, they get excited every time I send them a link to someone else publishing it. And in their industry, AVN, I don't know what it stands for, adult something, but it's the big, like, you know, porn award shows. AVN kind of puts that on. So they published an article. AVN didn't reach out to me. They just kind of republished it. But you know, everyone in their industry sees that. So I think that's pretty cool. They were excited about that.
Mary Beth, I got another question for you. You know, going into this, did you have certain expectations about what these women would be like, or what their kids would be like, or what their husbands or boyfriends would be like? And were you surprised at any of the people you actually found?
Yes, I going into it, I think I just assumed something, you know, something might have happened in their childhood, or you know, or life hasn't been as easy as it could have been. You know, I don't know, why do people get in porn? You just kind of, you do make assumptions, but and I think a lot of those assumptions were right. Like, you know, a lot of the conversations I had with these women telling me stories about, you know, people they've dated in the past and things that have happened, even while they've been in the industry, just with producers. And you know, there's a lot of stuff, like unsettling stuff there. But this girl in particular, I mean, she's so crazy bright, and warm and lovely, and she had a great childhood, you know, from what she told me. And she's just like, I was always really interested in sex and wanted, you know, wanted to pursue this. And what she did that was different from the other women, she would produce her own content. And so do a lot of solo stuff and publish it on Pornhub. And she was like, I'm still getting residuals from that stuff, you know, because a lot of the other women get hired for the day and, you know, get $1,000 or $2,000 for a top role. And then that's kind of the end of their income stream. But she still has money coming in from these videos that she took years
When you
ago.
say solo, what do you mean by solo?
I know all these porn. Who knows this? I know
I
this
don't know.
now. So just her and not anyone else. So just her on camera.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Cool.
That's probably all I. Any other questions?
I want to know, before we dive into some of your tear sheets here of this work, what were the main challenges that you faced in either Poor Moms or Santas?
So I think whenever you do personal work like this, you know, I went to like 5 porn expos all over the country, and then you're traveling for each girl. It gets expensive, you know? So I kind of, there's that pressure of trying to find as many people as you can, but then also finding the right subjects and making that whole journey make sense financially somehow. But you let go of that in the end, because it makes sense in so many other ways. And you just can't put pressure on yourself with where's this going to land or any of that, because that's never really the intention. You know, the intention is just to do work that I'm interested about, and then use it as a portfolio piece and share these people's stories in a way that feels significant in some way.
Nice.
So challenges, you know, traveling with gear all by myself is always frustrating. And I tend to travel with my own gear and not rent it in different cities just to kind of save in some way. But other than that, I don't know. I think my challenge with my work lately, you know, especially having this time to kind of go over things, is I notice just looking at my own stuff, I'm like, a lot of this feels staged, and I like want to get out of that and just make my work feel a lot looser and more natural from now. And I think that's been a challenge for me for a few years.
Yeah. One thing that I've been thinking about as looking at this is that the actual shooting, the taking of the pictures, seems like it would be very little time compared to the pre-production and the production going into these projects. I mean, you can imagine the traveling around and meeting these women and, you know, telling them your ideas, and then booking the travel and finding the locations, and then the retouching as well would take up the bulk of it. So, but it seems like you wore that producer hat very well in these scenarios, huh? Is that something that you're used to?
I think so. I mean, you're working with real people. You know, I don't want to take their whole day, and so I usually tell them, you know, give me an hour to 2 hours, and let's just have a good conversation, and then we'll have a little shoot, and then that's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I'm going to dive into the tear sheets now and hand it over to Katie to ask some good questions.
Yeah, so Mary Beth, you and I began working together for your Poor Moms project, and Julia Hanley, our marketing specialist, to take the lead on that. But you started with the Santa Claus piece back in 2016, so you're really 2 for 2 with us on awesome projects that have gained really good traction. Well, that's great. So when you came to us initially, what kind of publications for each project were you looking to connect with?
I don't remember for the Santas. I think I just wanted to get eyeballs on it. And I remind me, it was not Julia who helped me out. Who was it?
It was Rachel.
Rachel. Okay. It's been a while. So I told her, I was like, I just want as many eyeballs on this as I can get. And it'd be great if it was published in a magazine. If not, like, let's go with whatever. So I think she just drew up a list for me, maybe of 50, like we did with the Porn Moms. And, you know, I had her take out some that just didn't feel like it, you know, and she added some. And so we kind of worked that way. But I think the fun, and this might be a question you have later, but I'll just talk about it since it's kind of relevant. So HuffPost was one of the first people who reached back out to us and wanted to publish it. And, you know, with HuffPost, there's no fee. It's just online. So it got published there. And then from that, a bunch of people started emailing me wanting to publish it. And the same thing happened with the Porn Moms. We did, the British Journal of Photography wanted it. I think 6 people wanted it. And then I was like, let's do the British Journal of Photography. So they published it. And then all these other people, they're still reaching out to me, wanting to publish it, it's cool. It like takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
So
I
think
Katie, can I jump in with a question? It's interesting that all these different publications picked up on it, and of course some of them are paying and some of them not so much. Did you guys think about any kind of strategy, like, or is there sort of a progression where do you try and get the publications who pay first? Like, are there some publications that don't want to pay for it if it's been previously published, or like, is there sort of a progression of publications that you should that a photographer should try to follow?
So when we're doing the project pitch, we typically we don't really do like waves of outreach. We typically do one initial wave that really gets us, if people are going to respond, they typically do it pretty quickly. So that gets us a good gauge of who all is interested. And then, we just encourage our photographers like Mary Beth to negotiate and to see what they can get, and then, prioritize from there. But no, yeah, we typically just kind of have one shot and those 50 clients just at once to see who's interested and who bites.
Mm-hmm.
The total's wrong on this one. It's a grand less, just PS. And that was for the Santas.
Right.
Yeah, it was for Santas. You want me to make the number look higher? Okay.
Keep it going up.
That's good. So were you thinking about these publications when you were initially shooting these projects, or were you really just out there for the fun of it?
No, I remember for the Santa project, early on, I pitched it to Southwest Airlines magazine because I shoot for them quite a bit, and they loved the story. But their brand is very light and family friendly and bright and colorful, and those images are very dark and moody and totally different from their brand. And so they had asked, like, can you start shooting it lighter? And that's when I was just like, you know what, I need to do these projects for me, and then focus on where it gets published afterwards, because I don't want that influence. I don't want to shoot for a brand. I just want to, shoot for the story. So yeah.
There's a lot of good brands out there, and there's people like us who like, fitting those puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. And I thought a lot of the online outlets don't pay. It was all the anything that was published in print are the ones that I got fees from. And with the Porn Moms, Refinery 29, I got that was 125 pounds, so I made that from that project. Yeah.
So you might not remember this from the Santa project, but at least from Porn Moms, we typically outreach via email. But what was the message that you really wanted to get us to get across in those emails?
Are you thinking of something specific I put in an email?
So I remember when you and I first talked about the Porn Moms project, it was really important to you that the project wasn't about you. It was about, and your, process of photographing them, but it was about these moms and, how they fit within the industry.
Yeah. And motherhood.
Yes. And motherhood.
And not so much the porn industry. Yeah. And so I had BuzzFeed was one of the outlets that wanted to publish it. And I just kind of hesitated a little bit with them being the first one to publish it, because nothing against BuzzFeed, but it tends to be really clickbaity. And I was worried about titles being put, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so with the British Journal of Photography, they're pretty much like, she honored the story and in a way that felt really good. And all these guys, when they republished it, they did a good job. Same with Metro, like all these UK sites tend to get, the headlines get a little, but Porn Moms, like the name Porn Moms, is challenging too.
And Mary Beth, how much additional reporting did these publications do to support the interviews that you had done?
None with the women directly, but a lot of them would interview me and ask questions in an email. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And tell us what happened with the Good Morning America and Hearst Television. What were those?
Oh, that was fun. So with the Santas, Hearst magazine, I don't really know how they work, but they made like a little video that kind of told the story of the project. And then I think they put it out there in, to the press. It's like a press release almost. And then I think that's where Good Morning America kind of saw that and then reached out to me directly. And then they did a little story on there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of already went over the financials a little bit, but were you pleased with, you know, how much you got back from it? Were you disappointed? Were you surprised?
I think just keeping the intention, like when you keep your intention on getting the work out there to as many people as possible, that's all I try to focus on. Getting a few bucks here and there in the end is great.
Yeah.
But doing personal projects, it always gets you work. And I think, you know, with the Santas, I've heard from several photo editors who have contacted me. Oh, I loved your Santas. I found you that way. Or, you know, advertising agencies saying, you know, do you, we use this for inspiration for whatever, and could you do something similar on, you know? So you hear it come up with projects that come up over time, and I mean,
Have you had any creative directors or anyone reach out seeing this and hired you for other work based on that advertising work?
I don't know directly, like it's hard, like people will bring it up. And so I'm like, is that what made you want to hire me? I don't know, you know? So it's kind of hard to pinpoint what that is, but yes, like personal projects have gotten me work. Cause I started the Santas early on, you know, and I wasn't doing a ton of well, no, that's not true. The Santas. I did a project called Miami Boyfriends, and it's all like old men in Miami. And little projects like that. It was before I was doing a lot of editorial work or commercial work at all. And so that work got me the editorial stuff. So
That's good.
Have you ever syndicated any of these projects through a picture agency?
Yes. But not, I don't think any of them have actually sold. I think they're up on gallery stock.
Mm-hmm. Because it seems like, I mean, I remember back when I really early in my career, it seemed like it was more that the publications were sort of looking for more stories, and it feels like that has largely gone away. And I wonder if the internet age has basically just sort of eliminated that as a possible revenue stream for photographers because clients are used to getting free content, or maybe because clients are used to sort of one-off pictures more so than picture stories. Do you have any sense of any kind of trend over the course of your career?
I have never done much with stock or syndication. Like that's not a revenue stream for me, really. Like little bits every once in a while, but yeah.
But even with your editorial clients, are you over the years, have you seen a trend away from more extended picture stories or portrait series, and in favor of just one-off pictures, or do you feel like it's there's still a market for picture stories and portrait series?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Most of the time when I do shoots, you know, the magazines pick 1 to 3 photos. So it's, I mean, I always find getting stories like this in magazines, it's challenging, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, but I'm glad you guys touched on the publicity aspect of it, because it really is, you know, there's a quantifiable amount that you can get from these publications, but it is harder to kind of tap the value of being heard and being seen, whether it's for advertising or for editorial projects coming up. So moving on to your newest project, Nephew in New York, can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yes. So this was something I didn't even look at it as a personal project, really. I just started doing it because I was taking these pictures of my nephew. But I told Bill a few weeks back about this story. This is my little nephew. He's 16, and he lives in a tiny town in Texas that's under 2,000 people. And I went running with him one day down there, and I was like, where do you want to live when you grow up? What do you want to do? And he was like, oh, I really like Weimar. I think I'll just stay here. And, in that moment, I'm like, I've got to get this kid out of this town. He needs to see the world. So I told him for his 16th birthday, he can pick New York or Miami, and I'll take him on a little trip. And so he picked New York, and we had like a week together and just saw the sights. And I had again one of those tiny on-camera flashes with crappy triggers that would work once every 3 times I tried. But I just have someone hold it kind of offside just to light him up in situations. And
you can see that person holding it here. Who is that woman?
That's his mom. So
okay.
That's his mom. So she came as well. So it was the 3 of us.
What's his name and nephew?
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael Jr.
Is mom your sister, or is mom your sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a blast, and I put it on my website just because I don't know, these images just make me happy and remind me of our trip. And
yeah.
And then we were talking about pitching stories, and I think, Bill, you brought this one up. And I was like, I never even thought about that, about pitching it. But
well, when I saw this, I mean, it's beautifully photographed. The interesting question for me is, like, compared to Santas and Porn Moms, those stories have I think a little bit more appeal for most publications, even though I think these pictures are in some ways equally strong photographically. They're of your nephew instead of sort of like the Santas and the Porn Moms have their own sort of editorial hook to them. And these feel more personal in certain ways. So the question sort of becomes, is there a publication that would want to publish this? Like maybe it would require you to come up with some sort of heartfelt essay about your relationship with your siblings and your nieces and nephews. You might just need a little something extra to make this interesting to a wider audience who don't know your family.
Right.
But I think the pictures are really strong, and it just might need some little hook to make it relevant beyond like industry publications that are just reporting on what photographers are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Mary Beth, do you have any ideas with that? Are there any publications that you're thinking this will be a really good fit for, or maybe some aspirational publications for you?
Oh goodness.
Loaded, I know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't really. I mean, the ones that I think of are the industry focused ones.
Yeah.
That I can see it getting up on. But as far as magazines, I can't really. I would be super surprised if anyone was interested in a story like this.
How about the New Yorker's blog?
Photo booth.
Yeah, photo booth.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit.
Katie and I were,
I'm sorry, Brian.
Katie and I were chatting about this project and how the like kind of 3 main important things about it are the location of New York, MB, the photographer, and that these are they're beautiful photographs first and foremost. And then the subject, who's her nephew, who's a teenager. So yeah, Katie and I were chatting about the different, maybe there's like a New York teen blog, or definitely photography publications would be interested in a story like this for sure.
Absolutely. And I think, again, there's so much value in that publicity aspect of everything. In our last campaign with Porn Moms, so many publications were just interested in your work and wanted to, asked us to keep up with them, and they wanted to keep tabs on you. So really just kind of saying, hey, this is what Mary Beth's been working on lately, just kind of showing up again and getting in front of them. There's value in that too. Even if this isn't the ideal project that they want, they just want to know that you're still shooting, you're still being creative in this time. So we'll definitely include a lot of those. And like Brian said, and Bill said, a lot of industry publications, because this is, a beautiful art piece, really. And then maybe some travel blogs, and some like youth culture media outlets as well.
And Mary Beth, do you think you have an essay in you? Do you think you've got those words that can sort of put a hook in this, to sort of communicate? Because I think any New York publication, I think every New York publication has a little bit of, wanting to sort of brag about New York, and the idea of the kid from the small town in Texas coming to New York, and you sort of giving him that experience. That there's a little bit of a story there, and if you can put the right words together, I think the New York Times or the New Yorker or New York Magazine, any sort of New York centric publication, even the Wall Street Journal has like half a dozen different publications. I think there's a lot of sort of New York centric publications that that with the right little blurb of text could appreciate this. And because it's interesting, because when I first saw it, I didn't really feel that, but the more I'm looking at the pictures, the more I'm feeling like with the right words, you could sort of strike a little nerve and get people interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you bring up, for me, the captions and the words that go along with the story that you're trying to tell are almost more important, definitely equally important. So, I work with a writer on most of the projects that I do, and she's my best friend, and she's so crazy talented. And so when you're like, do you think you can come up with the words? I'm like, no, but Laura Lee can. I can find someone who will get there. We always have conversations. She's like, okay, so she'll interview me, and it's just such a gift having someone who's crazy talented.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to take poetic license. You don't have to tell the precisely true story. You can embellish that a little bit. You can twist that a little bit for artistic effect. No one will mind.
No, it's always a collaboration with her. So, but yeah, I love the thought of putting more thought into words that go along with this.
Yeah, and of course she can ghostwrite it. Like, she can write it in your voice. It doesn't need to be like about you or about the project. It could just be she could just help sort of bring out your voice in it.
Right.
She worked with you for Porn Moms, right?
She did. I did the Santa captions, but it's I used to love writing, and once you worked with a talented writer, you're like, and I give that roll up, pass it on to the experts. So it's always fun with her.
Well, should we open it up to any questions from the galley here?
Can somebody type something into the chat just to convince me that it's working? Oh, there you go. Okay, Natasha, what do you think of this?
She's like, I put test.
I just unmuted myself. Hi, Mary Beth. I'll put the video on just so you can.
Oh, hi.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. I love your work, and just thanks for sharing your process. I do have so many questions. I don't even know where to start. With the, say, the mom series, like how many, I mean, I guess I'm just asking some logistical questions, like how many setups did you like end up doing with each kind of hour to 2 hour time with them? And did the kind of framing come about beforehand on the activity, or did it come as you were interviewing them beforehand? Or just how did that process come about? And yeah, how much shooting are you doing?
Oh my goodness. So I think, so I would go there and we'd kind of scout out the place, and they'd show me areas, and then, you know, do the interviews. I kind of did one setup for these women, which, you know, I think with the way I work now, I try to do several just to give me options, because sometimes I get frustrated when I go back to edit and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done that, or, you know, try it a little further to the left, or, you know, whatever. But I think a lot of times I focus too much on taking up too much of their time, and I need to kind of let that go, because they're there and they're willing, and no one's giving me that feeling other than myself, you know. So I just really stuck to one with the women.
One more question, then I'll let other people have a turn. My other question is, your work is, you know, super consistent, really, really beautiful. Do you work with the same retoucher on everything, whether it's commercial, editorial, or personal? And if it's personal, like, are they getting kind of the same normal rate, or is it more of like a collaboration favor sort of thing on personal retouching? How does that work?
Yeah, so I do most of the retouching on my work, with the exception of like when I shoot for Billboard, I use a retoucher, and I use the one that Billboard use. You know, they've got a bunch that they work with, but I work with one of their women who's wonderful consistently. And let's see, for personal work, I did my own retouching on the Santas. I did hire someone for the porn moms just because I could, and, you know, and he was one I had never worked with before. I was familiar with his work from Behance, and he reached out to me, and I was like, he goes, if you ever have another personal project and want a retoucher, and I was like, you know what, I have one that I'm working on, and I'd love to work with you. And so I gave him $150 to retouch each image, and I was like, could you do it for that? And he did a great job. So, and and it's funny, we're working with retouchers, because they, you know, so some of them try to take things too far, and I'm like, no, like push it back, you know, just do like little basic things. Because I like to kind of work with the tone, the tonal range. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, who else? Don't be shy. And Natasha, you can keep going if you got.
I had a question about the pitching of it. So in terms of when you go to pitch, I mean, the images speak for themselves. I mean, both of the first two, I mean, they're all great series, but I can see the images really selling themselves. How much of the process or how much pushback, I don't know where this question is, how is copy, you know, words a part of it? Does it have to be a part of it? Did you ever get pushback that said, love the project, but can you tell us, you know, can you write something about it? And, you know, even not specifically to this project, just kind of in general.
Mm-hmm. I think like with the Santas and the porn moms, people really took the captions as is and used them, and I loved that, and especially with the moms, like that was really important to me, that they used that copy with the image. Sure. And did just kind of publish a story about porn moms, because I was just really careful with that and how that appeared online or wherever. So no, I didn't get pushback really. With the Offseason Santa, I think I was more careful with the porn moms because I collaborated with Laura Lee on it. And so she wrote those based on the transcripts from the interviews. And so I wanted.
So the copy is derived from the interviews that
Yes.
you did on camera.
Yep.
And then did I see that she was credited in some publications and not in others? Is that?
No, I think she was on all of them.
Okay.
'Cause in the emails that I would write back to people when they reached out to me, I was like, this is a collaboration between, you know.
Yeah, when I initially saw it, I don't recall where it was. I saw that you had a writer, and I didn't think that I had seen that before. And I thought, oh, well, she's collaborating with a writer. I didn't know it was your best friend at the time, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And she'll do that sometimes where she'll do stories and write it ahead of time and then I'll photograph it later.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we just love working together as a team so much that, you know, if I'm working on a personal project, I didn't think she'd want to work on Porn Moms because I thought I didn't know that she'd want to put her name on it. But she was like, no, I would love to. And I was like, I was so hesitant to ask you. And
so I guess part of my question really was, in terms of the pushback, are they ever looking for a deeper dive on these where it's like, love the images, we think it's there, but we'd love to, you know, can we flesh the story out a little bit more? You ever get that?
I forget what outlet wanted to publish it, where they were like, would it be okay if we reach out to the women to interview them? And, you know, I would have loved that. Like, for them to flesh out a story, but also to kind of tell them to maintain the integrity of the story, you know, but I think the girls would have loved that. And I forget who that was, but it didn't end up happening.
Heather, do you want to jump in with your question?
Sure. Yeah. I do a lot of personal projects, and I'm so notoriously bad at pitching them, getting them out, getting them seen. I'm terrible at it. And I know that you guys can do some of that stuff, and I haven't taken nearly enough advantage of what you can do. And I'm committing here in this pandemic to do that more. But I'm curious how you are pitching these pieces. Are you doing it digitally? Are you doing print pieces? Also, you know, one thing I found 10 years ago is that, like, I would go pound pavement and try to build relationships at these different publications and things, and everybody's there for 2 years and then they leave. You know, you build a relationship and they're gone. So how are you doing it? How are you making your pitches?
So that's why I love using Wonderful Machine to help me with this, because I just want to take myself out of the process. And you know, for me, I've sent pitch emails in the past, and, you know, rarely do you get a response, you know, even from people that you've worked with, you know. I just think it's really hard to get stories placed, or that's been my experience. So working with Wonderful Machine on this, you know, you're getting a list of 50 publications, and you can kind of direct them and tell them, like, I would love it here, or here. That would be my dream. And then they'll kind of come up with other things that they think would work as well. And so Katie, or, you know, Julia, they send out an email, and I wrote to Julia, like, I'd love for you to attach, you know, this brief of what the story is about. So she, you know, they double check before they send anything out, and then people start emailing back, and then they'll email it to me. And I made a few calls to Julia.
You're providing, because I don't know how you guys are doing this. I'm a lurker, right? I just, like, hang out on the periphery. So you're providing them with the content, and then you guys are putting together the emails. You decide if you want to do a print piece, something like that.
Yeah. Hey, Heather, we've done it a bunch of different ways, but yes, ideally there would be some writing, and if the photographer does not have writing, we certainly can provide that as well. And then, you know, a write-up about the story, and then a writing for the email blast as well, and then get those emails out to hopeful clients.
And with the Santas, I did I can't call it a promo, but I guess it was kind of promo-ish. But I sent it to clients that I've worked with, and I just did like a 12-pack of greeting cards with the image on the front and then their stories on the back, and then just sent it right before Christmas so they could like use them. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
How many of those did you send out?
Say it again.
How many of those did you send out?
Probably 50
Very
different packs. Yeah.
Very
They were
cool.
cute though. They looked great, but that's the only promo I've done.
That's a great
Great.
idea. Yeah.
But
It's
yeah, Heather,
amazing.
to the print question, generally if it's a story pitch like this, I wouldn't recommend print because it's a little slower, you know, for the design and the printing and then, you know, the USPS to get that out there. But if it's just a promo piece for your work as an advertising piece, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would be inclined to sort of follow up with the print, but to pitch it to publications digital, just to be fast and cheap. So
Yeah,
Natasha,
there's something very convenient about sending things through email, just being able to click on your website, you know, see the image right in front of you, you know, click to see more, and then click to reply.
So along those lines, are you guys, so if you're going to do an email that is going to promote a certain story, say the porn moms, are you then requesting of Mary Beth that her website be, you know, curated in a certain way so that that's right on the, I mean, is that useful to you? Is that a tool that you use, but that you'll say to someone, okay, I want this on the front page of your website when we're going to reach out and promote the story?
Typically not. I think it's a good rule of thumb to just have your website updated, and the people that whatever you're using to pitch, and you know, whoever you're outreaching to, theoretically, they should be within the parameters of your brand, as should your website. So it should absolutely be up to date. Maybe, you know, that certain project really isn't even on their website yet because you know, want to see if anyone wants some exclusivity. So yeah, you don't necessarily need to curate it, but you definitely want to make sure it's up to date and a good representation of your brand.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that there are some publications, whether they're print or online, and especially print, if they're paying real money for it, they want to have first crack at it. And the more that it's out there in the world, for some publications don't care that other publications have published it, but some do want it for the first time. And so I think for any brand new project, you're better off keeping it off your website and pitching it so that those people who are getting it are feeling like they're getting sort of a first look at something. So I'd be inclined to keep it quiet initially and then sort of gradually roll it out.
Right, and there's also something to be said about your photographic identity. I think, Natasha, you said how Mary Beth's work, you can just see how it's hers, you know, no matter the retoucher. And so, you know, if you have this personal project, it still will be kind of, you know, fit with your photographic identity and with what else people find on your website. Natasha, did you have a question about the pitch?
I did. So you guys mentioned that you kind of pitch it all at once instead of doing it in phases. So is it more like, I mean, I don't want to call it a mass email, but are you sending it kind of like a mass email sort of thing? Or are you doing more like one-on-one, like addressing it personally to each target on the list?
So sometimes we do start with one template. Sometimes there's need for a little bit of customization. For example, when we pitch this Nephew in New York project, we're going to pitch to people who we've just talked to a couple months ago about porn moms. So we're going to want to kind of bring some of that initial conversation back into this one. But for the most part, yes, we do start with a template, and that's typically what we send out. I don't like saying that it's mass email because
I don't like that term, but yeah.
Yes, we're not necessarily proponents of that, but you know, the list is targeted, and then it's kind of like a conversational email. You know, we do encourage sending like attached images, but it's not just an image. It's a conversation, an introduction maybe to Mary Beth and her work, a synopsis of the project, and then just, you know, ending with a call to action of what are you looking to get on its email. Typically it's like a call or a meeting to discuss the project more. Anybody else?
All right. Okay. Well, well, that's great. Yeah. Does anybody have any other thoughts for Mary Beth or Katie or Brian? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. That was very interesting, and special thanks to Mary Beth for sharing such a beautiful set of projects with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mary Beth.
So thank you. And while I've got you all, does anybody have any thoughts? I mean, this is sort of like a home run for me in terms of like projects that I would want to be able to share with you guys. But do any of you have any thoughts about either types of sort of member open house themes you'd like to see, or even specific topics or guests that you'd like to see?
I would be interested, and I feel like I could talk to Mary Beth all day because I love what she does. And also you're working alone, and I do so much work alone. And I would be interested in knowing in particular how you are managing your equipment. It's just so much, you know what I mean? Like it's so much, and it's so much to do alone. And I don't know, sometime I'd love to do a thing on tips and tricks for working alone and getting your stuff around alone. I mean, I happen to be also a really small person, which doesn't help, but I would love to hear how other people are dragging lights around and light stands and traveling, air travel with it, or driving and setting up, all of it. So if anybody finds that interesting at all and wants to share ideas, and I'd love that.
All right, that's a great topic. Thank you.
I hate all the gear.
No, I hate it. I love it, but I hate it.
I think I'd love to hear more about the photographers who have been able to transition into motion, and like how they're building their reel and what resources they're using, and just how they're making that transition. And like getting trusted to, shoot motion projects.
All right, that's a good one as well. Great. Anybody else? All right. Okay, and for anybody who wants to stick around and talk about completely unrelated topics, I'm available. So as people drop off, feel free to stick around if you want to. If not, we'll see you next Friday. So once again, Mary Beth, thanks again for a terrific presentation, and Brian and Katie, thank you as well. So we'll see you guys all next time.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, Sonia. Bye.